I'm Myke Shrews.
And I'm Tivis.
And you're listening to
The Munster Cast.
Episode 76, I think it is. Welcome back, everybody, to the Munster Cast, the podcast where we watch and talk about the Munsters and Munsters adjacent. I am, of course, your host, Myke Shrews, here with my co-host and friend, Tivis. So, Tivis, please tell everybody out in the Munsterverse. How you been, man?
I've been pretty good, actually. So
Awesome. Real quick, before we dive on into everything that we got to do, we can do our dirty work in the social media aspect of everything. You can find the Munster Cast on all social media platforms as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X, and also YouTube via the Munster Cast. You can also see our pretty ugly faces every Munster Monday via youtube.com/@TheMunsterCast. You can also go over to TheMunsterCast.com or just MunsterCast.com, actually, and check out all of our fun content over there. Vlogs, videos, audio, everything that we do over there. On the right-hand side of your screen is a little microphone icon where you can click and leave us a voicemail as long as you want, as long as it is Munsters related. You can also go over to TheMunsterCast.com/merch and visit our merch shop and pick up an awesome tee. Are you even wearing one of our tees today, Tivis? I can't tell.
No,
I know
it's
I'm not.
AC/DC.
All right, yeah. I am wearing a Nick Cage Superman shirt, by the way.
What is the quantifier there for a message about the Munsters? Are we getting stuff that you're not telling me?
We'll dive into that later.
Oh, boy.
We'll talk about that offline. Then you can also email us over at TheMunsterCast@outlook.com. Email us all of your Munster stories, content. If you want to try and get on the show, if you know anyone who wants to try and get on our show, please contact us. You can also hit us up on patreon.com/TheMunsterCast if you really, really want to. I am doing this for Tivis because we need to go faster than we have been. That's it. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or any of your pod catcher of choice. Is that what you always say, Tivis?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
I don't know these things. I'm an old grumpy man. Call me Red 4 man.
They're almost 20 years old. According to my art museum, that takes you out of modern art.
You can also go over to the MunsterCast, TheMunsterCast.com/watch the Munsters today, which takes you to archive.org, and you can watch along with us every Munster Monday as we go through the new Munsters Today show. Well, not really new. It's about 20 some years old. I don't know exactly. 1989. So yeah. And you can watch along with us over there, guys. You can also, now they have the pilot, the unaired pilot is actually the last episode of season 1 on the website there, but you can also swing on over to, again, youtube.com/@TheMunsterCast and check it out on our page as well and show us some love in the comments over there. Is that everything? I think I did everything. Oh yeah, it is our 2-year anniversary of the Munster Cast today. On this day that this is airing. So thank you all for tuning in, and we appreciate everybody for listening for the last 2 years of our craziness. All right, Tivis, what do we have going for today since we are not watching an episode?
We have a very special guest. Many fans out there, on the interwebs will know him as Cousin Frank.
I can't do the applause. There we go. We'll have
we don't have soundboard.
I do. I just don't have it hooked up today.
Please don't.
I can't get to it because of like 5 action figures in front of it.
Thank God for your hobby.
Welcome, Frank, to the Munster Cast. People who don't know, Frank has been communicating with us for almost the 2 years that we've been doing this, right?
Yeah, since the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah,
I remember tuning into some of the early episodes and being like, these guys are crazy and they love the Munsters. It's a match made in heaven. And then eventually I just sent you so many messages that there was either 2 conclusions. 1, a restraining order, and 2, you'd get me on the show eventually. So glad to be here. And that there's not a restraining order.
Well, just wait until after the show. The restraining order's coming, I think, in like 2 days. Yeah,
Perfect.
maybe by the time this airs, there.
But thanks for having me on, guys. It's great to be
man.
here.
Well, thank you for showing up. We are great to have you. We wanted to, because we know you have an affinity for the Munsters Today show specifically, for sure. We wanted to make sure that we had enough episodes under our belt before we got you on to talk about that. So, because I know you've been asking over the last few months, and then we're just
to be very transparent, we tried to do this way back at the beginning of summer, but then everything went to shit for us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Same here.
I think everything that went to shit for like the majority of the world, but it's us. True. It's only us. We're very narcissistic here. We do a podcast. Come on, we have to be narcissistic.
Well, the show don't happen if we can't do it, and we couldn't do it.
Yeah. So summertime kind of sucked for us, but it was great that we were able to watch the entire first season and then be able to talk to you a little bit on it. No spoilers for the last 2 seasons, please. Although I think you've given us a few spoilers on Facebook here and there in the comments.
Yeah, that was very much my fault, because a lot of the content I was posting without thinking that you guys hadn't seen the Munsters Today, because most people have. Right. At least that I've spoken to in the fanverse. So I felt really bad when I realised. I was like, darn, what have I done?
Oh, that's fine.
Hopefully it's nothing too major, because there's still a lot of really cool stuff to come up, and a lot of new family members, a lot of new storylines, and a lot of really cool things. And I've got some things as well that I've managed to dig out quite recently from speaking to some of the cast and crew from behind the scenes over the years. I've looked back through my archives and some things that maybe some people don't even know yet. And I have that cassette tape of Al Lewis, when I used to call him, that I'll give to you guys to have on the show as well, because my stalking of Munster people started in the 90s when I was a kid, when I got into the show, and I basically realised Al Lewis had a restaurant in New York, made a phone call from the UK that cost like $600. My parents nearly had a heart attack. I was like 11 years old, and they got the phone bill, and they were like, who called New York in the middle of the night? And I was like, I don't know.
Dad, why would you do that?
Yeah, exactly, Dad. Why did you do it, Dad? So yeah, but yeah, anything you guys want to know, or
I'm actually curious.
Try not to give spoilers.
Did they ever actually find out it was you that did the phone call?
Eventually, I think it was my 20th birthday. I got really drunk. No, it was my 21st actually, and I got really drunk and confessed to my dad and said, you know that phone call, it was me. And he said, well, yeah, I phoned up the restaurant after it to ask who it was. It may have cost me another £600 to do it, but I wanted to know who it was. And he said, this guy answered the phone, and right away I recognised that it was Grandpa from the Munsters. And I thought, who done that?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I remember, what was it on? I think it was the documentaries that we had watched, the mini docs. I think, I don't remember if we posted them on our YouTube or not, but they had talked about Al Lewis's restaurant and stuff, and how Fred Gwynn did the artwork and everything for the logo.
Yeah.
It was it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was definitely in those documentaries that are part of the box set. If you guys haven't picked it up, we've been talking about it forever.
Yes, the original series box set. Yeah.
Well, we don't have one for this show.
You could have it on the bottom. Why don't you have it on the bottom there?
You know what? No,
here we go. The Munsters box set. There you go. You can go to TheMunsterCast.com/Munsters box set to buy that same box set that Tivis was just talking about.
Great box set.
Dude, we should do episodes more at night. I have a little bit more energy.
I just got off work.
I think I would kill Tivis if we did that.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
He popped out for a second.
Go ahead.
Go on, Tivis.
Well, I was just gonna say. So, you called Al Lewis as a youngster, but how did it get like the Munsters Today kind of come into your life?
Yeah, it was. I was about 8 years old at the time, and I'd actually had an accident that had left me paralysed for 2 years. So, and this was in the 80s when there wasn't much to do. if you weren't able to go up and down stairs, there was no like wheelchair access, there was no anything. So my parents made a makeshift kind of bedroom in the living room for me, and my mum wheeled in the big television from the front room. And so it's one of these big TVs, it's massive, the back of it's massive, it gives you radiation poisoning. And just sitting up at night, I was watching old reruns of horror movies like Frankenstein, Dracula, The Wolfman, all the classics from Universal. And then flicking through the channels, I came across The Munsters Today. And I still remember the episode. It was the flyweight champion one where Eddie fights the school bully. So, and I thought, that's the Munsters, but it's in colour. And so I thought, this is quite the concept of it, that it was modern day, that it was the same characters, just in different scenarios. So I started watching it, and I was really into monsters. I was really into making my own movies and writing my own scripts at the time. And just as I started to get back on my feet, they didn't think I would ever walk again. They actually said to me, your chances of walking are pretty slim. You might never walk. You'll be in pain the rest of your life. And so the episode that came on around that time is the one where Marilyn made the movie with the family. And she does the whole Star Trek thing, and Grandpa's like Darth Vader and stuff. It's so funny. And I thought, yeah, I need to get myself a camcorder and make a movie. And so I asked my dad's best friend next door if I could borrow his camcorder. And I still have it to this day, and started making movies, becoming a fan of the Munsters Today, myself and my friends at school, because when it came out, everyone was talking about it. Everyone at school, there was the fan clubs, there was the magazines, there was the merchandise. It was quite heavily populated in Scotland and across the UK. It was on sort of before school, after school, kind of that kind of thing. And then at the weekends, they'd show reruns, and it was on at a kind of time that was targeted towards kids. And the Munsters itself, people knew of it, but because it was black and white, it didn't really interest a lot of kids. I watched it the same as I did the Addams Family, so I didn't know of it. But it wasn't till I saw the Munsters Today that I thought, it's filmed in a very different way. It's filmed like a live theatre show. It wasn't, cut, action, stop, retake, cut, action, retake. The way they filmed it in front of the audience was beginning to end story. All the special effects were live. When Howard Morton would turn into Grandpa, that was practical special effects on the stage, and then he'd jump out from the side and do the bat thing. So it intrigued me how different it was to the Munsters, but still the same. And the premise of it, that it was this family suspended in time, that kind of thing really intrigued me. And I thought, well, what's the director? What do they do? How did they transform these characters? Who writes the scripts? So I started going to the library and just reading about different shows being made, different programs like The Munsters, the history of the Universal Monsters, the way that they had become so prevalent in the 60s and become, this monster hit with comedy on the edge of it. And so I started researching, and I grew up with the show. It was on until 2001 in Scotland. And we didn't get the episodes in order, which was a nightmare. I know for you guys, because they've not been kind of aired in order, you guys were like, yeah, there's Howie, then there's the Nelsons, but they've already been introduced. What's going on? It was very much the same here, but because the episodes weren't weekly, and sometimes there'd be a lot of reruns over the summer, we didn't actually get the final episode until 1997. Which was, for us, we didn't realise it wasn't in production, but since the early 90s, I'd been in contact with the cast. I'd joined the fan club. I got the magazine, I subscribed, I got a couple of the action figures, which were awful because they were so cheaply made. I don't even think there's surviving pictures of them online anymore from the Munsters Today because they were so cheaply made. We had the magazine, I joined the fan club. I was lucky enough to connect with Howard Morton when he was still around. Managed to connect with Lee Merriweather, John Shuck. And I remember the letter I got from Howard when I sent the first letter, the one that he sent back was, well, the show's not been on here in a very long time. I mean, we finished it long time ago. And, it would be, that was me. I retired as an actor after that.
Right.
So I was quite shocked because we didn't have the internet, so there was no way to know how many episodes there were. And how long it would go on. For me, I was hoping it would be forever, but alas not. But it was still one season longer than the original series. And when they brought it out here again in the 90s, they actually repackaged the original series with the new show and the movies all together. So it was just like the Munsters on every channel. You could turn on any channel in the UK and the Munsters in some form would be on it, which was fantastic.
Now, did they ever do like a full-on DVD release for the Munsters Today with you guys?
No, not yet. We had
Okay.
VHS,
Right.
which are so hard to get hold of. I think there was only the first 3 that we had. Yeah, I see it. I've ordered that one. I'm so jealous.
This one is custom made by me, actually.
Oh, is that the one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
There's
actually
one
made
online.
this one and the one that Tivis has. Like, I took some of the imagery from the internet.
Yeah.
But it's like a thick case because it holds what, 16 discs, I think, or no, 10.
Yeah.
Universal, there's a lot of people that will pay for one.
Yeah,
Funny,
I've
I've just been in touch with Universal about this, and they said they're actually considering a release of the Munsters Today because of the podcast. I
They
sent them a
need to.
link, and I said to them, "You need to check out these guys doing this podcast. There's a lot of life in the Munsters. You know, with Zombie doing the remake, the reimagining. You know, you've a lot of life in this. So hopefully, the licensing department are going to go on this and get it out on DVD. And hopefully as well, my TV channel is going to be re-airing it in Scotland as well. So that's something to look forward to in the new year.
Well, Universal definitely do that because I've been asked many a times by people on Twitter, hey, where can I buy that? Or, hey, will you sell me one? And I am not getting in trouble with those laws, so of course not.
A very dark tunnel to dig yourself there. You would have to go underground and, you know, forget anyone you love and know and just like sell the DVDs under the black market, because they take that kind of stuff so seriously. They really do.
Yeah. They have to do the whole scam that they did with eBay years ago, just a money launder stuff, except DVD laundering. Just to...
It happened to me. I actually ordered, I can't remember what it said. It said 72 episodes, 10 discs as pictured in the eBay. I thought, well, I've got them all taped on VHS and I've got them copied to DVD, but I don't have an official release. This is as close as I would get in 2005. So I bought one, you know, feeling like very trepidatious as I clicked buy now on eBay because I knew it was going to be fake. But then they actually sent me a laminated picture of the DVDs for like $70, not the actual DVDs. And it said as pictured because they sold me a picture. And I felt like, and I can't even ask for my money back because I'm not going to get it back because technically it's not legal. I was gutted about that. Gutted.
So the only one I found that was like a decent, legitimate one, I pulled out all of my. There's too many DVDs now for the Munsters.
Not enough.
Don't let Universal hear you say that, Mike. There's not enough DVDs.
Yeah, there's not enough
Universal.
DVDs. I mean, but this one right here, and then but the covers in I think is it French?
It looks like
Italian.
Oh,
I'm going to say Spanish. So
I believe it was Italian.
Yeah, that's the one. I also tried to buy that, and somebody got $30 out of me, and I never got it. So,
but it was only 2 discs, and I think there's only like a couple episodes on it, and there's not a whole lot on it at all. And it kind of bummed me out. And that's when I started searching more and more and more deep down until I was like, all right, I'm gonna make my own.
Yeah.
And then screw it. Which has been helpful, especially watching along, because I mean, when we started, they hadn't had it on the archive.org yet. So a lot of people were like, well, where do we watch this? Where do we watch this? I'm like, I mean, I can try and direct you, but I can't really tell you exactly because there's not really a legitimate place. It's basically hit or miss and take your chance type of thing. Yeah. So like you guys said,
because I know one of the episodes that they didn't have was the one. I can't say because that's a spoiler. Can't tell you that.
Do you know
that's a spoiler.
What episode number?
So there's a episode with a very prolific guest star who actually requested to be on the show and bugged his agent to get him on the show. Like a lot of people did in the 90s. It was even a lot of people that didn't appear on the show but came to the set. I mean, Michael Jackson was on the set of the episode where Eddie done the moonwalk Michael Jackson actually requested to be there for that, because originally they were going to do an appearance of Michael Jackson on the show, but then I don't know if it was something didn't work out schedule-wise, something like that, but he was still there for one of the tapings. Pee Wee Herman was frequently on the set. He loved the Munsters today. He knew the cast very well.
Yeah.
George W. Bush went to the set.
Really?
He was such a big fan of it. He was a big fan of the Munsters. There are some photos out there, and I have some on a disc that I'm going to look out. But yeah, so there was so many people that were just... The Munsters was an institution, and the fact that it was back and that you could go and watch it being recorded, and it had some really notable stars at the time. John Shockley, Merriweather, Howard Morton had just found fame being on Gimme a Break, so he just got his big break, pardon the pun, and ended up as Grandpa on the show. So there was a lot of excitement around the show, and a lot of different things happened on the show. You probably noticed the makeup changed slightly episode to episode sometimes, and there was differences on the the writing staff. There was a lot of, actually timed wise, it was around the time of the 88-89 writer's strike, and that actually affected the Munsters today, so it went on hiatus, and that's why there's some episodes where Hillary's not in it, because the actors were also on strike. So Hillary was with a certain agency, so there's some where she's just not in it, some where she's not in it, she wasn't cast yet. Obviously the pilot had made that change, but then she wasn't in it for a few episodes, and then everything went all right. So it was a crazy time to be at Universal Studios, and it would have been great to see a taping of the show, I have to say. That would have been
it's definitely interesting to see it come like almost full circle, just by coincidence, because we're watching it right now and the same strikes are going on right now, which
Absolutely.
is doing the exact same things to a lot of content here. I don't know about you guys there. You guys aren't
no, they're still good.
We're not on strike, but there's talk of a pending strike.
Right.
There's actually already 2 years worth of productions already backlogged because of COVID. Then there was delays because the government lost a lot of money in commercial television. There was a lot of things that shouldn't have been spent in certain places. So television, the business model is changing here. We now have Netflix and Amazon Prime being quite disruptive with their own programming, but that's through the US, which is on strike. So a lot of productions have been shelved fully. Today, there was actually a broadcast from Channel 4 put out saying they're not going to, which is one of our big terrestrial broadcasters. They've said they're not going to be looking at any major new content until 2025. And 80% of their workforce in television is out of work right now in the UK, which is just disgraceful. It's just awful.
Yeah, this is a little off topic, but Doctor Who, do you know if it's still going to air on? Do you get BBC too?
Yeah, as far as I know, everything's okay. But I will say things could change in a pinch. It really, really could. Reports that I read 2 or 3 days ago are already outdated today because the industry is just, no one knows what's happening. I'm quite lucky because as well as doing, television and film, I also do commercial work. I do some work with communities. I do a lot of local television, which isn't in the same unions. There's a lot of different industry niches that I do. So because of that, it's not affected me as badly as it could have. A lot of people I know are having to sell their house and just basically move back in with their parents. And this is people who a year ago were like snorting coke off of like prostitutes, and they're hard up now. They're having to sell all their gold medallions and things like that, and life has just slapped them in the face. I mean, kind of deserve it a little bit. I'm joking, but the industry has changed so much that people who were literally able to go and do all sorts of things 2 years ago, post-COVID as well, can't now. It's just so awful.
Well, it doesn't help that the studios realized, like, oh, well, we really weren't doing anything during COVID and we still made a crap load of money. We can wait the strikes out, basically, is what they're trying to say. Now, because
going great with WB.
Well, they just bought way too much stuff right before the strike started to happen too, and tried to merge way too much crap. unfortunately.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question is because, like you said, there's going to be a shortage of shows coming up, and we got major companies out there with these private streams that are purchasing up what is available still. So
Yeah.
I was curious if like they're locking stuff away and stuff like that's going on. But
Netflix is definitely getting all of the like Korean films and shows and stuff like
well,
they're locking
maybe
all
not
that
anymore.
stuff down. Oh.
Things are so crazy. It's hard to tell where we'll be in 5 years' time. But
Yeah.
to anyone that's watching this who works in the industry, and there's a lot of people who Munsters fans actually happen to work in the TV industry.
Yep.
So if there's anyone out there, just make sure you're thinking of plans A, B, C, and D. I'm kind of doing the same. I actually have a show that I pitched before COVID and get picked up for a pilot that's actually based on the Munsters, and if it was greenlit, would sort of be a kind of tie-in in the same way that the Golden Girls, and in fact, do you guys know about that? Do you guys know about the Munsters Today and Golden Girls being set in the same universe?
No,
I didn't know that one.
I didn't know this either until the other day, and I was speaking to another fan, and I thought, really? Because Golden Girls is a show that I'd never seen.
Did they share a character or something?
Yes, they did. The
Oh,
delivery
crap.
men, the delivery men, the restaurant owners, and what was the other one? I think it was the guy that came to fix the plumbing that was in like 2 or 3 episodes. The characters all have the same names. They're all played by the same actors. They were all with the same agency, and a lot of Golden Girls supporting actors actually turn up in Munsters Today. Nanette Fabray, oh my goodness, the guy that played Roger Nelson. Forgive me, I've forgotten his name. But they found out that it's actually in a shared universe, and that was apparently quite well known because one of the producers of Golden Girls, his wife worked on Munsters Today. And I'm like, that is so odd. I never knew that was a thing. Again, because I didn't know Golden Girls. So when I saw it and I thought, I recognise that guy's voice. I recognise his kind of, I recognise the kind of uniform he's wearing. I'm like, that's the same guy. And then I asked someone about it the other day, and they're like, did you not know that? And I was like, no. And I thought I knew everything about Munsters Today.
Right.
So it was quite cool. I can't remember. I had a point about that, and I've forgotten the point now. That was leading me on to my next point. Nope, it's gone.
Sounds like you just set up our next show to watch.
Yes.
Not doing a Golden Girls show. No. I mean, nothing against Golden Girls. I've watched the crap out of it, but no, I think my wife would kill me if I started.
I'm just imagining the intro to it. I'm Myke Shrews and I'm Tivis, and you're listening to The Golden Boys with the Golden Girls theme in the background.
Only if we like dress like Gold Member from Austin Powers.
I thought you were going to say only if we dressed like Golden Girls, and I just pictured you with a nice tight perm and one of those really ostentatious dresses on. My mind automatically went to the dark side.
So, getting us back towards.
If we do anything first, Tivis, we're doing Matlock. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know you. As long as it's not Lassie, we can agree on that. You said you were kind enough to send us a bunch of photos, and I'd like to go through.
Of course.
A few of them. Let's see. Let's go with the one I already accidentally clicked on.
Yeah, that's from Howard. That's one of the first ones I'd got. Basically just saying, we finished the show a long time ago. I've retired. He's enjoying the quiet life. And actually, I didn't ever speak to him on the phone, but he did write me a lot of letters, which I still have. And I'll send you guys some of them I have because he was kind enough to send me autographs. He sent me a pair of gloves that I still have, that he actually wore on the show, that he kept after the show finished filming. So I still have the original gloves that he sent me that he wore. I'm not sure if it was through all the episodes or whether they had multiple pairs, but I still have them. And I remember when Karen Swerling, the costume designer on the show, she worked on a project over here in the UK with me many years after Munsters Today finished. And she said to me, when she took the gloves, and she said, they actually smell like Howard. They actually still smell like Howard. I remember he always smelled like, like talcum powder, like baby, fresh smell. They actually still smell. And she was actually crying. She was like, it's because she was very good friends with him before he passed away. And she said, it's after all these years, being able to smell your friend. I'm making that sound so creepy and strange. It was a really beautiful moment, I swear. Oh, we've got a cat bursting into the set. This is Charlie. Say hi, Charlie. Charlie.
Does that one attack you?
Not as much as I think he would like to. He just meows a lot and wants a lot of food all the time. He likes his food.
Tivis is always getting attacked.
Do you know, it actually was becoming a source of amusement, almost like get a bingo card on this episode. Tivis's legs get attacked. Will it be today, or is that going to be the episode after? Like, get your Munster Cast bingo card for Tivis getting attacked by the kitty.
We should totally do.
Well, door's locked today, so it ain't happening.
Clever man.
If we ever get out to cons, we should have that as merch to sell. The bingo card for Tivis' scratch legs.
Screenshot my pained face.
And then on the back side, it can be like a scratch off where they see your scratched up legs.
You also sent us some photos of your collection here, so I'm going to go ahead and show some of those off.
Yeah. So that's a hybrid Ghostbusters Munsters collection. You can see the joke book there in the middle, the Munsters joke book, which is shaped like a coffin. The jokes in it are awful. It's like dad joke central. So, Myke, you'll probably love it. I only realised about, a week ago that it actually says the author's name is Be Warmed. I was like, oh, I get it. Like, 20 years later, I got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't know if you can see the Munster coach there. One of the boxes. It's actually got little cardboard cutouts of the Munsters Today cast that come with it, which was quite cool. It was a limited release, and I actually got that from Robin Shelby and Sean Spence. Robin Shelby played Slimer in Ghostbusters. So she got that as a kind of get well present for me when I was ill back in 2014. I'd gotten the chicken pox, and I couldn't make it to set, so I opened it, and it's actually signed by George Barris. They actually waited in line for like 4 hours to get him to sign it, which was incredible. And I was like, oh my god, thank you so much, it's amazing, thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, Butch, I met Butch right before last Christmas.
Oh, wow.
He's just a great guy. He was in town. He was just doing like a little table signing meet and greet thing at a comic shop in town, comic toy shop. And I just went in there, and people were walking past him left and right. And I was like, hey, dude. And I got him to sign like the podcast shirt and everything. So that one's like retired now. I had to get a new one to wear around.
Did you frame it yet?
I didn't frame it yet. No, because I want to try and get more of the actors. Like, I want to try and send it. I'm gonna try and see if I can send it out to Roebuck if I can't like just hook up with them on set or something like that. Because I am trying to reach out to them to get like next time they're shooting in Florida to try and work on one of his movies with them.
Studio's not far from you, so
yeah, no. I mean, but they shoot everywhere, so they shoot like everywhere. So it's kind of hectic, and I'm like, I don't know if I can drive to the middle of the country just to shoot a movie for the weekend.
Yeah,
so, I think the only solution there is get you guys all to Scotland. You, Butch, Roebuck.
Yeah.
Like Tivis's cat. Get you all to Scotland.
Yeah. What else? There was a thing that you sent us. Oh, you built this, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, it's made out of cereal boxes and coffee stirrers. It's a to-scale replica of the Munster Mansion that's at the Universal House of Horrors, which is the one they used on Munsters Today, the scale model. So this has got all the rooms inside it. It lights up, the stairs open. That's pictures of it being constructed. So yeah, it took me about 4.5 years because I get very distracted by other things. And it's got, so that's Grandpa's Lab I've started working on. So that's got the coffin, the thing with the eels that hang through. So I've started working on that. So hopefully have that finished before Halloween.
Nice.
Yeah, but someone asked me the other day, they said, why did you make it? And I was like,
why not?
I don't know. I don't know why I done it. I just got bored and had lots of cardboard boxes and decided to do it. I think it's because I want to own the house. No one in the city council will let me build a real one, so the next best thing is make one out of cardboard, and just lots of hairspray on it to make it really solid so it doesn't fall down. And
that's awesome.
That's why you just do what Rob had to do and just build the front of the house somewhere.
Yeah.
That
Just
was
build it in front of your place.
Do you know, I would if, everyone that knew me wouldn't disown me completely, but and also move out and never come back. But I thought that the job they done, the production designers on the new movie, were spot on with the house. It was absolutely identical to the original at Universal Studios. It was so well done. When I saw that, I was like, my 8-year-old self was just like, ah.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna question for you guys: the Rob Zombie Munsters movie, does it take place in the 60s or the 70s?
I say with all the colors, the 70s.
Yeah, I was confused myself because they haven't had Eddie yet, so I can only think alternative timeline. That's the only thing I can think. And as well, because some of the kind of things are a little different with who some of the characters are, and with the character traits, it was like a new interpretation. So I was like, I'm not sure.
Well, I ran into an interview that Rob Zombie did on the Eli Roth, I think it's Eli Roth's podcast, and he was talking about how he does all of his films based in the 70s. So got me thinking about the Munsters, and I was like, okay, so that makes more sense with the color scheme and the rock and
here's
roll.
a question for you. You've seen this movie way more than I have, Mike. When Grandpa's watching the TV, is it in black and white or color?
Which time?
Either time.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's in black and white at the beginning when they do the comedy show.
Yeah.
And then there are colored spots on there, but it's also hard because sometimes it's in black and white, but then they go into what the TV is, and then it's in color. So
okay,
it's hard to tell whether it's in the 70s or not.
Yeah.
So I believe
I've seen the movie 25 times now, I think.
Going from my history of Doctor Who and my fandom of that, I know around the 70s is when the BBC started switching all of their shows to color because color TVs had become more common.
Well, I mean, we had colored TVs even in the 60s.
But that's when
Munsters
it was
just done in black and white to save money.
That's when they made it standardized. Like I believe it was 1970 exact when they switched over to.
Yeah. But there's like actually a cool comparison I saw. I don't remember where online, but it was like clips from House of a Thousand Corpses versus clips of the Munsters, and they were like almost perfect side by sides of each other, like the color schemes, the black and white TV shows and stuff like that. Because he even did Zombo was in black and white when Rob Zombie did that one too.
Yeah.
So
I know people aren't happy with the coloring, but even Rob himself, but I think it looks beautiful. I love it.
It's really nice. It's very vibrant, and it's not just made for diehard Munsters fans. It's made for younger audiences to bring them into the fanverse and let them know it's their entry to that franchise. Just the same as for me, it was the Munsters today, because there were so many people who were dead set against it. Despite not Al Lewis, as is typically told online, everyone says, Al was asked to come back as Grandpa, and then, and then they said he was too old, and then this happened. And all a bunch of hooey. That didn't actually happen. There was contract laws in place that meant they couldn't ask Al, and Al was actually heartbroken not to be asked back to be Grandpa. They did want an original cast, but based on Munster's revenge bombing and the TV ratings, it didn't happen. So then in 1986, when they made the Munsters Today idea, originally it was going to be the new Munsters. When that idea came about, they wanted the cast, but unfortunately they couldn't, and they couldn't use the strength of the TV ratings to back up the fact that they wanted them and to pay that money. So they had to cast for all new actors, and it was a very lengthy casting process. 300 people tried out for Marilyn, and that's just the ones that they let in the door. That wasn't just an open casting. There was so many people. George Burns was initially pitched to be Grandpa as well, which is, I can't see it exactly, but I suppose. And then it was, do you guys know the story of how Howard got the job?
No.
Grandpa. Oh my God, this is actually quite a cool story. Howard had just done a really big movie with Burt Reynolds. So he was kind of talk of the town. He was big on Broadway. He'd done a lot of shows and off Broadway. So he was doing a show called Gimme a Break, which used to air nights over here. So he was like a police officer in it, and he was kind of like a subordinate, but quite funny, dry-witted, dim-witted as well, actually. It's a really good show. You should check it out.
Kind of parallel to Car 55 and Al Lewis.
Yeah. It's actually got some similarities to it. It's more family orientated than police, but the characters are exactly the same, but just in reverse. So, and Al Lewis and Howard actually knew each other from way back before. And Howard and Way Merriweather, believe it or not, had actually been on the set of the Munsters when it was being filmed. It's so weird. However, I do digress. So Howard had been a contestant on a show. You guys probably know it better than I do. The $60 million Pyramid, I think it's called. I'm
vaguely familiar.
Yeah, there's some sort of game show about a pyramid anyway. So Howard made Mary Caderet, that played Dee Dee Nelson, who Tivis hates. They were all kind of guests on that show. So Howard was a guest on the show because of the movie just done with Burt Reynolds and the thing that he was doing with Gimme a Break. And Lloyd Schwartz, the producer who reimagined the Munsters in the modern day and done the pilot, you guys will know him from doing the Brady Bunch. They basically do anything with a family that's out of time. So the Brady Bunch been in the 90s, displaced. The Munsters been in the 90s, displaced. So Lloyd was flicking TV channels and he saw Howard, and Howard done a kind of sort of impersonation of Grandpa from the Munsters. And Lloyd just put the phone down and picked the phone up and said, I need to find out who this actor is that's on TV at the moment. Can you find out who he is? This is Lloyd at Universal. And he called him in and he said, listen, I'm thinking of rebooting the Munsters and I saw your impression of Al Lewis. Could you come in and actually do that for camera? So Howard went to a costume shop, bought a cape made out of, black plastic, came in, done the audition and got the role before the show had even been greenlit. He was the only one they ever considered to be Grandpa. And nice. Al Lewis, as much as people say that, Al hated the show, the only thing Al hated in the show was Herman's makeup and kind of storylines that maybe jumped the shark a little bit. Al was a big friends with Lee Merriweather and John Shuck. He didn't like the makeup, but he absolutely loved Howard. His words to me, which you'll hear on the tape when I send it to you, is, yeah, he makes an okay Grandpa, almost as good as me. And I was like, it's quite funny to say that. I was a joker. Such a nice guy, though. And Howard as well. Howard was quite gentle, quite a soft soul. And I actually have a few VHS tapes that I'll send you guys as well of Howard on the Pyramid, telling them he'd just got a role on a reboot of the Munsters and showing them the first production images on the game show. And it was that episode that got Mary Caderet cast as Dee Dee Nelson. It's just, if these things hadn't happened in that order, the show would have been so different.
Right. That's awesome.
That's amazing.
I always hate it when people are like, oh, this actor didn't like it, so I shouldn't like it. They'll use that. They'll utilize. I mean, they do it to this day. One actor that was in something 5-10 years ago didn't like the new version, or I'm just like, guys, can we get over that aspect of it?
Well, I mean, we're seeing it with Frank, and all three of us actually are fans of Power Rangers to certain extents, and Jason David Frank, who passed away. A lot of people are misconstruing what he said about not coming back to the character. He wanted to focus on his film that they were doing at the time.
Right.
Yeah. White Dragon, which is still not out yet, for anyone curious. But so they do it all the time.
Oh yeah.
I knew Jason quite well. He used to get so frustrated. We worked together quite a few times, and he'd get so annoyed about people misquoting him with anything to do with Power Rangers. And sometimes, I mean, Jason was quite sarcastic, and he'd sometimes say things for a reaction. And when he said things, they'd quote him on that, but not the half-hour conversation they had before that, where he spoke from the heart about what he actually really believed and wanted. And then they'll use the one inflammatory thing he said as a joke, and he was like, come on, really? So that used to actually weigh down on him a little bit.
We will have to get you back on for an Operation Babel, because I would love to hear more of that.
Sorry, I'm jumping the shark from Munsters to Power Rangers. So
oh, no, you're fine, man.
We do it all the time. Let's see. Let's check this one out. It's
Yeah.
Chuck wearing Fred's headpiece.
Yeah, that's it's quite a rare photo. I think it's one from behind the scenes on Do Munster. I can't say it. I don't know how you say it. But that one, the final episode in season 1, that was actually the first episode to be recorded. And you'll see that it's the same headpiece that Fred Gwynne wore, the same suit as well. Karen Swerling, she actually was given access to the Munsters warehouse that they had, and she basically just went in and had to sew together the suit that they'd used on Munster's Revenge, and they basically just threw it on John Shuck and said, yeah, try walking around as Herman, and he done it, and it was great. I think that episode in particular, that's the one that Nanette Fabre guest starred in, is the woman that falls in love with Herman and tries to seduce him with the TV that's positioned completely ridiculously on the wall, because that's not where you would sit to watch the TV. I like that point you made, guys. But that episode was the first one to be filmed after the pilot, and it was so Munsters. You could watch the 60s series, then watch that, and it's the perfect transition to the new show, because it's just the costumes, the makeup. 80%, I think it was, of the set was original from the original show. So the fireplace, the only thing they couldn't save was the staircase. That's the only thing they had to rebuild, and that's only because it fallen to pieces by the time they got it. So that's the only thing. The doors, the backdrop of Mockingbird Lane, most of the kitchen, the bookshelves, the paintings on the wall, it's all up from the original show. And throughout the Munsters today, until the very last episode, they still had original pictures of Fred Gwynne, Yvonne De Carlo on the set. They wanted to keep the original actors alive on the set in some way, which was just such a nice homage to the original show, because all of the actors, the directors, the producers, they all loved the original show, much like Rob Zombie does with the Munsters. There was so much love on the set of Munsters today that they just wanted to make sure they paid that homage to the classic show.
Yeah. And for people too, like because I didn't know this before rewatching. And oh geez, I'm sorry guys, I have my phone set up as backup in case power goes out here because it's storming right now.
Same here. We're on Weather Watch. We've been told to expect a power outage tonight. I got the text message 2 minutes before I joined online, so I was like, oh shit. I finally get to sit down and talk to you guys, like probably two of the most synergetic people I've ever met in my life, that I can talk to the Munsters about without you falling asleep. Right. And then the power goes out, I'd be like, well, fuck.
I think it's raining at all 3 places that we're all fucking living at right now. So
no, I'm good now.
You're good now? Okay.
Yeah, it's over with now.
But, anyways, as for like Rob Zombie with the love of stuff, like I didn't notice this, and I've watched the movie many times. It wasn't until I just sat down and rewatched it like 3 nights ago, A House of a Thousand Corpses. There's literally a scene in there where, you know, Otis and Grandpa are watching the Munsters on TV. It was the drag race episode. I was like, that's awesome. Yeah. Or no, not the drag race. Sorry. It was the episode where Herman's getting his license. I believe it was.
Oh yeah. The one where he goes to the little town. Yeah. That's such
my favorite of the original.
Yeah. So that made me very happy because it was Rob's first movie and he still incorporated the Munsters as best as he could. I mean, if you watch a lot of his movies too, he incorporates a lot of that stuff throughout a lot of his movies, like even just putting a little piece of something here and there that to pay homage to the Munsters, because I think he even did it in his Halloween movies as well. I think there's, because you have Daniel Roebuck wears the Frankenstein costume, I think in the first one. The second one, I think it was the first one. He was wearing the Frankenstein costume in the first Halloween.
I don't think I've seen that one. I'll need to check it out. Yeah. I love doing that stuff myself as a director when I'm on set. A lot of my projects, I don't know if you guys get, you know, any stuff from the UK over in the States, but anything of mine that you might have seen, like, you know, I always put something of the Munsters in. It's either on in the background, or there's a nod to it, or there's a character reference on a line. Yeah. You know, to nod to the Munsters. I've done a pilot episode quite recently we're actually doing a full homage to the Munsters with the whole project. Hopefully we will get Universal on side to join us with it, and it will be an official tie-in to the Munsters. That was the point I was trying to make about the shared universe, because then not only would I have a shared universe to the Munsters, it would be a shared universe to the Golden Girls as well, which I'm watching and quite enjoying. Sophia is just brutal.
Yeah. But
when you finish that, I have to recommend Hot in Cleveland. It's kind of a spiritual successor.
Yeah,
I saw some ads for that, and I thought, is that Betty White? I thought, yeah, I need to watch that.
Didn't last long, but it's great.
I think they've got a channel for it on Pluto TV here in the UK. I don't know about in the US, but they have a channel. And as far as I know, there's going to be a Munsters channel rolling out pretty soon. They've got an Addams Family one, which is 24/7 Addams Family. The Munsters is set to follow. I hope I'm allowed to say that. I think
Oh,
there was an announcement already for that.
Thank God.
Feel
Okay.
that
if not, Mike, go back and bleep this.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll find out.
I think it was announced. If not, maybe it was something we potentially talked about. Yes,
we've definitely talked about it.
Yeah. So
because that would be good. I would love to see that. I would love to see the old episodes of the Munsters packed with the Munsters today, because there's a lot of episodes where they actually, I mean, no spoilers, but they remake some old episodes. It's the same episode, and they actually do things like, I can't believe this happened again, Herman.
Yeah.
Or like Herman says, oh, but that happened in the old show. It breaks the fourth wall, and it's actually quite funny. So it would be good to see them backed up with each other.
Right. Oh no. All right. How long has that been going on? Crap.
Well, it wouldn't be our show without problems.
Oh man, come on. Sorry. It says you're out of space for your recording, so it stopped.
Oh no.
Oh no. It should be fine. We should still be good
got your audio
on my
backups,
end.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, we should still be good on my end. All right. Moving forward anyway. Sorry guys. It's not the Munster Cast without something goofy going on. Chaos ensues.
Chaos ensues. Do you know, since you say that on a lot of the synopses for the episodes, like my sister keeps telling me off for saying that, and I keep just saying that when I have nothing to say about something, and I'm like, yeah, and chaos ensues. And she's like, you keep saying that thing that guy Myke does in that podcast. I'm like, sorry.
Good.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, that's funny because I used to do the same thing. I used to watch this guy on YouTube, and I always say like his tagline, it always pops out randomly. Barely an inconvenience.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
You remind me a lot of that guy, actually. You look a little similar to that guy. I don't know if people said this to you before, but you look very similar.
Yeah.
And you know, actually, that's a project I'm working on, that whole barely an inconvenience kind of thing. It's quite funny. Everyone knows who you're talking about when they say it.
Oh yeah. Except for my wife and kids, because they don't get it. I'll be like, oh yeah, super easy, barely an inconvenience, and I just start laughing to myself because I have nothing better to do in life.
Are you being passive aggressive, Myke?
Always.
He quietly laughs to himself all the time, so it's not new.
I do. I totally do. I'll sit here and I'll text Tivis a joke, and then I'll just start laughing my ass off. And my wife is like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I just said this to Tivis." And it's 100% something that Tivis is probably just shaking his head at. A lot of dad jokes.
Tivis, like the cat hanging off his leg, just going, Myke.
Yes. Oh, people, send us your artwork of a cat hanging off of Tivis's leg under the desk. Just make sure it looks like a cat and not a penis, because that would be awful.
You were opening the floodgates.
All right.
You really are.
I wanted to share this.
Technically abuse now, Myke. Poor Tivis.
I wanted to share this picture too, because we were talking about like Roebuck as Frankenstein, but you've dressed up as Grandpa.
Yeah.
So this is you. How old are you in this picture here?
I think I was, oh my God, trying to do the math, and I'm 42 now, so it was about 10 years ago, so I was about 32 at the time.
Okay.
So that was when Karen Swerling, who was the original costume designer on the Munsters and the on-air pilot, of the Munsters, and then she came back for Munsters Today. She actually came over and actually designed that costume for me. And
awesome.
we had a party in her honour because we were all big Munsters fans. We actually got to work with her as well, so I share an IMDb credit with her, which is just awesome. And she's a lovely lady as well. I need to connect you guys. She'd be great to have on the show. Her knowledge of the show. Yeah, that was us. So I made a headpiece for my brother, so he became Herman. It kind of looks like a Mr. Pringle moustache he's got there, as opposed to the shading, because he was drinking a lot of like beer, and it just started smearing down the side of his face. But that was us reenacting that picture of Howard and John. So that was our interpretation of it. And by that point, someone had stolen the earpiece that I had, so I just literally took stuffing out of a cushion and just stuck it to the side of my head. But unfortunately, the glue that I used actually stuck to my own hair, and when I ripped it out, I had no sideburns for like 3 days. Luckily, it grew back quite quickly. Yeah, that was very painful. You could hear the scream in Illinois.
Yeah. Oh, that has to hurt.
Yeah, so that was some of us. That's Karen on the bottom right there. She's such a classy lady. So much love for the Munsters. She worked on the show, worked on Munsters Today. She knew all the cast and crew very well. She had no complaints about the cast and crew at all. Just had such a great time. She left the show after season 1. She got her own show. It's a show called Rocky Road. I don't know if you guys might have seen it. It was I've forgotten her name, Patricia Arquette. So it was quite a good show. I think it ran for like 102 episodes. So she was quite sad to see the Munsters go. Yeah. But getting her own show that she could be the lead costumer on was quite good. And the fact that she's done a lot of shows. She'd done Adam 12. She'd done what was the other show? I can't remember the name of it. Really bad. Without IMDb in front of me, I can't remember much of anything. Even my own productions. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they said to me, "Do you know what episode that was that you worked on?" And I was like, "No." Check out IMDb. I'm sure it's partially accurate, unless you're looking up the Munsters Today, of course.
Right.
Where it gets all the guest stars wrong and the episode numbers wrong.
Nobody on IMDb knows anything about the Munsters Today.
Oh, it's awful. It's so frustrating, but I think it's because a lot of at least in the UK press, they actually wrote a lot of the wrong things down. So it would say the Munsters Today starring Fred Gwynn and Yvonne De Carlo in the TV guide. And I'm like, it's not Fred Gwynn and Yvonne De Carlo. So no wonder so many people got angry when they tuned in and they saw John Shuck, because it literally said in the paper that it was someone else. Yeah. It's so frustrating. But like I said about the Munsters Today, when it came out here, we had a lot of merchandise, and I've got so much of it. I've got boxes of it. I'll start sending you guys some things, to share on Patreon and things like that. I'm not precious with it at all. The more we share it, the more people get to know the show, and know that the actors absolutely loved it. Apart from John Shuck was quite vocal about some of the storylines in season 3, kind of not being very kind to Hillary. They literally had her wearing tiny little string vests in season 3. It was borderline softcore. That's kind of one of the only complaints they had about the show. But yeah, it's I'm glad to hear you guys are enjoying it. Actually, do you have your top 10s kind of already in your head? Your top 10 episodes, do you have them in your head?
Oh jeez, no.
No.
Same just here. The Munsters Today, or
just Munsters Today? Because I tried to work out.
That's like half the season, though. 10 episodes would be half the season.
Yeah. I was thinking the same. What I did manage to do.
I did loosely talk about it on the last episode, where I was like, I liked a lot of the episodes where we had kind of like the Hallmarky PSA kind of moments where you had the sit down and talks and stuff, but then they jumped right back into the humor afterwards. So you weren't ending on this like serious note. You still had your comedy element to take you back out, so you could enjoy life and not be like, oh gosh, I need to go and like rescue 5 dogs from the pound right now or something. But
I think that's one thing that a lot of people connect with when they think of the Munsters as a loving family. And something I didn't notice till you guys mentioned it when you were talking about Munsters season 2 in 66. Lily is abusive to Herman. She's so horrible. They are like awful to each other. Like they're out flirting with other people, and like, you know, Herman's checking out all the other women, and like, and I'm like,
they literally
that's so not Munsters.
They literally have the episode where they're both trying to make more money while also flirting with each other, and they don't know it's each other. I'm just like, what are we doing? What are you even making more money for if you are willing to flirt with someone else anyways? Like, because the whole idea wasn't it to buy each other a present or something like that?
Their 150th or something like that anniversary.
So they were
I'm like, Marilyn, get off your fucking arse and work. You get 2 legs as well. You can help. You're just standing at this house all day waiting on people climbing in your window and turning into frogs. Come on, go out and work. You're old enough now.
She was in college. She was busy, and I mean, really, Marilyn didn't have to work. She could have got money from any guy that came along.
Yeah, pretty much. She could have. It was always so funny because people didn't think she was attractive. You know, like in terms of being a Munster, but she was so attractive. Beverly Owen, Pat Priest, still. Pat Priest is such an attractive lady and such a nice lady as well. Hillary as well. Hillary looks no different now than she did on Munsters today. She is still stunning, absolutely stunning. And you know, there's this trope about Marilyn Munster that she's kind of portrayed in a way that's sort of airheaded in a way, but I think she's quite a conscientious character. If you really watch the episodes, especially as you go on in Munsters today, season 2, they kind of go through Marilyn's character a little more. She's back at college, she's studying, you know, she goes to college, high school, you know, the whole thing. But the one that I did love was Jo O'Donnell in Munster's Revenge, when she was kind of helping with the police investigation and things like that. I think it was, it felt like the 70s, but it was very much in the 80s. It was the year I was born, actually, in 81, that movie came out. And I really liked her Marilyn's portrayal of the character, and I thought, like, Marilyn could solve a crime. She could take a mugger. She could totally, like, you know, get the job done. She's not just in the background as the pretty one. It was
really kind of like a little Nancy Drew they gave her.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah,
I did like that. I did like that.
I didn't like how they portrayed her in the first movie though, because they gave her a lot of. You see where the mental issues come in play. Because
psychological
she's been
damage,
psychologically damaged her entire life by her family calling her ugly.
Yeah.
and they really show you like this girl is damaged in this, but then they're making a joke of it at the same time. I'm like, what is going on? This is not the Munsters.
It doesn't age well, does it?
No. and
especially now.
Yeah, and it's worse too because they had recast it for the movie. She was the only one that was recast for that specific movie. And when they recast, they cast even younger. So now it's this really younger girl who's just emotionally damaged just because of her family saying, "Oh, you're ugly. You're horrible." Even,
my God.
Even in Rob Zombie's movies where he has like hillbilly murderers, they're not over there calling each other ugly all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing, because it really does have an effect. And, you know, growing up as one of the kids at my high school that stood out because I was different, I could identify with the Munsters for being different. You know, the way that in the 60s show, it was very much about race and differences, the way that the neighbours responded. And then pretty much in the same way that I suppose Dee Dee Nelson does in Munsters today. She just, because of how they look, she just does not want to engage with them, and that comes across so awfully. And, you know, Mary Caderet is such a lovely person. It took her everything she could to be nasty in that role. Like, I agree with Tivis. She was just such a horrible human being, Dee Dee Nelson. But with you know, that being explored, you will see more in season 2 and 3 of the Munsters' neighbours. But something you will notice is the attitudes actually start to change. It's not necessarily brought up in the storylines as such. It's more of a sub-narrative, but the neighbours actually start looking beyond what they look like.
Right.
And actually developing real friendships and real, I mean, episodically, of course, 1 or 2 episodes here and there. But the actors and the guest stars,
character development that we get. That's nice. Yeah,
and it's really nice to see that they're not as shocked. I mean, they might sometimes think, "Oh, that's a dead body in your wall. That's interesting, Herman." But they allow them to explore that, and I think as well the way that they do Eddie, the changes that he goes through, Marilyn, the changes she goes through. Herman actually goes through some, and Grandpa by the end of season 2 has to learn how to use a computer. He has to learn modern things. He has to, dress for golf, which he's not hot keen about because Grandpa has one outfit. That's the way it's always been. But the way they do it, it's really, really subtle. And, that's the episodes that a lot of people think of when they think of Munsters today. And comparing that to the original series, it's very different. But if you watch the series one to the next, you actually see the development of the characters, and it goes in a really endearing way.
It's interesting too to watch these in the light of the eyes that we have in today's society, and today's like how things are really just right in front of your face. They're not very subtle anymore when they put them in movies a lot of the times. Mostly like mainstream movies anyways. There's still a lot of good movies out there that are very subtle with how they push their narratives and all that. But there's a lot of movies now that just don't do it. So when we go into watching like the Munsters or even like old Star Trek, like you go back into that and you can see these narratives in there. But at the time, this was super subtle for them. We only just really notice it because it's constantly in our face now. But back then it was subtle. So even in the 60s show, all those elements that they were doing were very subtle little things. And that's why, like you said, like a lot of people probably didn't even notice the toxicity from Marilyn and Herman's relationship by season 2 of like her always beating on him or them always like accusing of cheating and all these other things.
You mean Lily?
Lily. Yeah, I said Marilyn, didn't I? Yeah, Lily.
Oh, I knew what you meant. It was quite bad to see, but they actually, I really do appreciate Lee and John as Herman and Lily. They're my preferred Herman and Lily purely because they loved each other so much, and that only gets better as the relationship goes on. We actually find out how they met. We actually found out, we see flashbacks of them at school, moving into the house. It's so cool to actually see. We actually see the wedding. We see Eddie being born. All of these things which are part of the Munsters, but it's not been quite figured out. It's so great to see. You guys, you're going to have a great time with it.
And I'm really curious.
Teases are making me want to just go watch it right now.
Well, I'm really curious to see too how much of that corresponds closer with Rob's movie in chronological order of like the marriage and all that stuff and Eddie versus like the original series, because like we've talked about it before, the mannerisms that Sherry Moon Zombie used as Lily are a lot more closer to the Today Show than the original show. And same with Here Come the Munsters is a lot more like Sherry Moon Zombies and stuff. And that movie was awesome too. That one I think has one of the more subtle elements of like not racism, but like foreigners coming into America and stuff like that and how they're treated. And we talked about when we watched it, it's like the only people who were being nice to them and weren't acting scared or anything were all people that were minorities at the time. Like you had the Asian guy and the black guy and all these other people of different descents were very like, they mentioned that they had, recently come into the country as well too. So it's basically the foreigners helping foreigners type storyline. And at the time, because that one came out in what, the early 90s? Yeah, it was right after Munsters Today.
Was early 90s. That was more late 90s.
It came out right after Munsters Today. Well, not right after, but
95, I think. 95, I think it was.
95, yeah.
95, yeah. And then 97, it was the Scary Little Christmas. Yeah. And I know, actually, Howard Morton was actually going to be Grandpa in that. They actually cast Howard. But he passed away before they could actually do anything with the movie. So he'd actually gotten ill quite quickly, passed away quite quickly. And they got, I don't know if you guys know this, but Grandpa has a brother in Munsters Today.
He's mentioned a sister.
Yeah. He I know the brother comes up, but it's supposed to be the same actor who played Grandpa Munster in the Christmas one.
Yeah. Oh, he took the role, so he was friends with Howard. Yeah. And when they heard that Howard passed, it was actually at Howard's funeral. And Sandy Barron, the actor that played Grandpa in that movie, he played Yorga in Munsters Today. And said, would you like to come and do it? And we'll dedicate it to Howard. And that's what they done. And they actually invited Howard's family along. And as far as I know, by that time, Howard was gay, and he was an out gay actor. He wasn't, hidden about his sexuality, but he wasn't allowed to have his partner at the set in case it caused controversy.
Right.
So there were a lot of kind of issues around that. But
because of it being a family show and stuff like that, I'm assuming.
Yeah. But he
the
managed to
80s.
get his partner cast in the show twice. Professor, oh, what was his name? That's awful. The professor that Grandpa goes back to college with, that was his partner in real life.
Okay.
And he was also in the pilot playing the bank teller, so he actually got to be part of the show in
That's
some way,
Awesome.
which was quite cool. And I didn't know that until I was a lot older, and then someone said, yeah, you realise Jack Fletcher and Howard Morton were a couple? And I was like, I didn't know that. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think
That
they did the
why they had
same.
such good banter back and forth.
Yeah. They did the same kind of thing with How I Met Your Mother, where Neil Patrick Harris's husband showed up in the show and actually played Robin's like boy toy for a little bit in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
I didn't know that either.
In How I Met Your Mother, Neil Patrick Harris's actual real husband shows up in the show, and he's kind of like this goofy like college kid almost. He likes like a dog almost, basically. He plays one of Robin's boyfriends at the time. Yeah. It's so the character is so funny in there, but then when you realize it's also his real life husband, you're like, oh, and then there's a little inside jokes in there too, so it's even funnier. So
I have to keep an eye out for those.
As well.
Yeah, but yeah, that's awesome. The Christmas movie for me was very we're gonna rewatch it this year. Spoilers for everybody. We're gonna rewatch it this year for our Christmas episode and talk about it with several other people. Hopefully we can get new people on to talk about it. Frank, if you're welcome if you want to come on and talk
Absolutely.
about the movie for our Christmas episode. And yeah, because I had a lot of issues with that one last year.
We'll see if our opinions.
It was more the kind of elves and the Christmas pudding thing that I thought, have I been smoking crack? This is like the Munster, but drugs.
Oh, I forgot. They turned Santa into a literal fruitcake. That's right. I brought that up.
So, well, how would you rank the 5 movies, Frank? I'm curious how you feel about them.
Oh, okay, because nostalgia sometimes plays a part in how you would rank something, but in terms of production, in terms of cast, in terms
of how you enjoy them.
I think because I only seen Here Come the Munsters more recently, so I've only seen that recently. So that, I think the cast are amazing. They were so good in the roles. They actually embodied all of the characters. The way that they played them, they picked out all the best things about each way the character had been played, reimagined it in a different way and spat it out, which was phenomenal. I wasn't as keen on how the cameo was written. I think that could have been done a little better with more of a nod to Fred, I thought, because he was the original Herman Munster. But it was really good to see the OG cast sitting around a table, together. After all these years, seeing them in the same place, because who doesn't love the original Munsters? But I think in terms of how I would rank them, definitely Munster Go Home, I think, is the one that I remember from being a kid that I would say is definitely at the top. I would probably then say the Christmas one, if I just don't watch the part where they turn Santa into a fruitcake and have the horny elves running around, because that was just so strange. I loved, I've forgotten his name, Sam McMurray, who was Herman. I thought he'd done a great job of invoking the childlike aspect of Herman Munster. I thought he was great. Anne Magnuson as well was great as Willie. I can't fault any of the cast at all. Some of the story could have been better. But again, what you're going to do, it's a Christmas special. Let's not talk about the Star Wars Christmas special, let's just leave that well alone. Same with the Munsters one, but there's aspects of them all I enjoy. Even Rob Zombie's, which is more recent, so it doesn't have the nostalgia factor. There's still parts of it I really enjoy. I think Daniel Roebuck was born to be Grandpa. That is just seeing him bring that character to life was so much fun. it was just so much fun. He looked like he was having such a great time doing it.
He's also one too. He shared some imagery from when he was a kid, like kind of like yours as Grandpa. He also used to dress up as Dracula, Grandpa, whatever you want to consider it. I mean, granted, for the Munsters '60s show that he grew up on, it was Dracula and Sam Dracula. This is what, Vlad Dracula? No.
Well, he's both. He's Sam and Vladimir. There's explanations that come up as well. So he uses a lot of different names.
Okay.
There's like I said, there's a lot of great guest stars to come up. So even Grandpa's wives start making appearances. So
they're not buried in the backyard this time.
Not this one. Not this one pretending.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Shit, where was I going with that? I don't even remember.
That's what I done earlier, and then 10 minutes later, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's where I was going. That was what I was doing."
Right. I'm sorry, I got distracted too. I googled the Munsters Christmas, and our video actually pops up on the first page.
Woo!
That's awesome.
Ooh.
Shit, what was I gonna say? I don't even remember, guys. I'm sorry. Continue.
Was it about a fruitcake?
Maybe about fruitcake. I had to explain that kind of joke. At least I thought it was a joke in the movie to Tivis, and that was interesting because I was like, "Am I going to offend people by stating this?" But I'm like, my brother would have laughed, so I could say it, right? I wasn't sure. You never know what you can and can't say these days, so it's always tough.
Especially when it comes to the Munsters, like I said, because that scene with the fruitcake, I had a VHS copy of that movie, and around the time when Santa was on the table and he was bouncing up and down and all the eggnog was dripping over it, and that crazy lady that played Edna Dimwitty was pulling all the faces. At that part in the tape get caught up in the machine heads. So anytime I rewatched it after that, it would play in slow motion.
That was
and
horrible.
It made it even more creepy and almost, dare I say, sexual in a way. Awful. God forgive me for saying this, but it really did make me feel so sick watching that part.
There's a lot of innuendos in the movie already. So
yeah. Oh my god! But watching
the
it slow motion, don't do that.
The bikers, the elves themselves, they don't even do innuendos. They just freaking say it out, right out.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to rewatch this horrible movie.
I'll need to connect you guys with the elves because I interviewed them for my website way back in the day, back in 2004, I think it was. My Munsters website, because I had the Munsters website for like 20 years. And I interviewed them, and they said the behind the scenes was even more gregarious than the actual film came out, and it was actually meant to be a little bit more risque than it was. And they're surprised that some of the things that stayed in when they realised that they were going for a more kids audience, because it was originally intended to be quite provocative. Some of they actually had a scene with Herman and Willie, with Willie going upstairs in like a corset, waiting for Herman. So.
This is the movie. I gotta point to this movie whenever people want to shit talk Rob's Munsters. I'm like, no, watch this, because this is definitely not in the spirit of the Munsters. Like Rob's is. It's just different, like, stylistic choices that he used versus what you guys got. I did like in Rob's, though, at the very end, when you're in the city there, it's kind of reminiscent of like watching Edward Scissorhands, where you have the big dark house at the end of the street and all the bright colored, perfect lawns and all that crap. Yeah.
Of all the complaints about that movie, the one I can actually get behind is I kind of wish we did get more of that house, because holy cow, was it awesome.
Yeah. It was so good.
Especially knowing that they built like that whole front structure, and you clearly see within the shots that there's a lot more built there that they potentially used, but just didn't make it into the cut or what.
I
do like
recycled in something.
Yeah. And then a lot of people complain about how it like ends with the freeze frame of the episode like that. I'm like, that's literally how every Munsters episode ends ever. Like, what are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
I told Tivis like a week or two ago. I don't remember which episode it was, but I was like, I whenever I'm doing movies from now on, I'm ending it on a freeze frame. Even if I'm editing someone else's movie, it's getting ended on a freeze frame, and they're just gonna have to deal. Like,
You need to get them to do something really energetic, like they done in Power Rangers. Power Rangers, like jump or something into the air. It's got to be, you both need to do it at the same time. And
yeah. Oh,
insane.
I'm a huge fan of the Fast and Furious franchise for some reason.
Right.
And I just hope like the very last frame that we see of the franchise once they finally end it, whenever they're finished up with these last few movies, is just like Vin spinning off, and then as the smoke comes up, we get a freeze frame and then cut the credits. That's how I would end that franchise.
Joe, it's funny. I've never seen any of the movies. I'm so new to the Fast and the Furious. I didn't even know it was a thing until in my production office they were actually filming the Fast and the Furious, and I turned around one day and I saw The Rock in my office, and I was like, "That's that wrestle guy." Like, what's he? And then I seen Vin Diesel at the bottom of the street, and I was like, either I'm having a stroke and it's a really powerful stroke, or they're filming this here. And I went to the office manager and said, "Do we have another production company in the building today?" And they went, "Oh yeah, they're doing the Fast and the Furious 5 or whatever it was. I'm not sure." I was like, "Oh wow, they actually filmed it in Glasgow." And then so for the next 5 days, I kind of just hung around the office hoping to bump into someone, and no one came. And I was like, "Oh."
Right, that's awesome.
If I bumped into Vin, I'd be asking, "Where's Riddick?"
I'd be asking for a job myself. Not where's Riddick.
Point, yeah. like I'll wash your car. I'll do anything.
Be like, "Hey, Vin, let's go and do like 100 XXX movies. Let's go. I'm in."
Just bring me back Riddick.
Do you want me to be your stand-in for Groot? I am Groot. I am Groot.
I have a question that kind of you have a lot of behind the scenes knowledge, so I'm curious. Did they ever try to get any of the original cast as cameos in today?
They did. By the time season 1 had kind of been in mid-production, the writer's strike had kicked in, so they were on a hiatus. And because all the writers that were on the staff left to do other things, so Lloyd Schwartz left, Peter left, Peter Isaacson that played Cousin Gillen wrote a lot of the episodes. So they'd left the show. So because of that, the contracts could be renegotiated. So they looked at all the original contracts and they thought, okay, let's try and bring in Butch Patrick to be, I think was it Cousin Gil at the time? I can't remember if it was going to be Cousin Gil to do the basketball episode or another episode like that. And they tried to get Butch, but they couldn't get his agent. They couldn't get his agent at the time. They tried and tried and tried. And then they thought, okay, let's try and get Al on the show to come in as as Grandpa's brother, maybe something like that. Stealthy there, Myke, stealthy. I seen it move. But they couldn't get Al either because his schedule was so. I think he was running for governor or something in New York.
Yeah,
there's something happening, so they couldn't get him in. And then there was another strike for a few weeks, and then another hiatus, and then.
Is that why there was a 3-week break or a 5-week break there?
I think so, yeah. It was just so quickly it happened, but then they managed to negotiate things, but they couldn't get the original producers back on board. So that's when you'll see in the credits, there's a new opening to the show for season 2, which was Bonnie Franklin, the director. She was a guest star in the original Munsters show, so she came and directed season 2. And Arthur Annacharico, who was the exec producer, he hired new staff. So he hired in Patricia Fast-Palmer and Dustin Nelson. There's a real Dustin Nelson, by the way. He's a producer on the show. That's where the character Dustin Nelson came from, because Hillary had a crush on him. So she had a crush on the real Dustin Nelson. So they bullied her about it and made her love interest in the show Scott Reeves, Dustin Nelson, just to basically take the piss out of her for the rest of her career, which she thought was quite funny, actually. But so the staff all changed, and then they actually were flooded with requests for guest stars. They had Arnold Schwarzenegger, I won't tell you the other ones that actually come on the show, because you see it and you're like, oh my God, how did they get this person? So they come in as relatives, and they had some veteran actors as well from some of the original horror movies back in the day who actually came in to play similar roles to what they'd done in the movies originally.
That's cool.
Lovely horror homages.
Yeah.
It's official canon that Damien from The Omen is a Munster. Spoilers.
Yeah.
You'll see that in an upcoming episode, which is so funny.
It's kind of makes sense too, because there's one of the movies they had what was it, the son of Mary, or not Mary, what was the, oh crap, why am I blanking on this name? It was basically like the child of Lucifer, but they called it son, whatever her name is, her son.
Okay.
It's a freaking movie. What is it, Tivis? Damn it!
You're acting like this is something I would watch.
Yes, it is. It should be.
I've been, you know what? I started up my sitcom watch. I've been watching Married with Children and Perfect Strangers and
it wasn't Omen. It was
Full House. That's the other show.
I don't know. It's not on here. It's not showing up. All right, whatever. Anyways, everyone will know. Just go watch all the Munster movies. You'll figure it out.
I think I know the reference you mean. But yeah, there's quite a few family members that actually tie to other franchises, which is quite cool. The Omen being one of them. But I won't give you guys any major spoilers. When you see things, it's the kind of thing that if you're into horror, you'll get the references. Like with Grandpa having other sisters, other brothers, other relatives. Grandpa's mum actually makes an appearance as well.
Oh, really?
Crazy. Because they do a few time travel episodes, which are crazy. So
yeah,
fun to watch, but I won't give spoilers. It's so hard not to, because so much of it is awesome.
We'll have to.
It was Rosemary's Baby, by the way.
Rosemary's Baby.
Okay.
That's the one. That's the one. I knew what you mean. I speak Myke. I knew what you meant.
Maybe after we finish season 2, we'll get you back on and we can talk more about some of these things that we haven't seen yet.
Or before
I'm not good at holding secrets.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at it.
Yeah, if we get you back on too, man, like I would love to continue talking, but I know my wife is going to start getting annoyed because I got to do dinner.
So
before we get going, I want to show a couple more of your images and stuff, but I do want to thank you right now too for coming on, and I want to get you back on. Like I said, you're welcome to come on for the Christmas one if you want.
That would be.
And I know we're gonna try and do Rob's movie again too for like Halloween.
Oh, nice.
So if you want to come on and just rewatch and talk about that movie, just that movie with us, that'd be awesome. We're gonna try and get a couple people on for that one. Hopefully we'll try and do it on a different day, so it's earlier for you, because I know you're 5 hours ahead of us.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, that's fine. This sort of time works for me because everyone else is usually asleep at this time.
Right.
The only reason I'm actually that it works so well is I was saying to Tivis earlier, I'm actually going in for surgery tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So for the next 3 days, I won't be able to speak. So I'm getting everything out now about the Munsters, nice. Enough to do me for 3 days, and then back to normality.
So. Before we get to the images, I want to touch on the fact that you are working on a documentary at this time.
Yes. We're doing a documentary called Our Munster Memories, which started production way back many years ago. But at the time, the rights for the Munsters was tied up with the Wayans brothers, and there was a lot of contractual obligations that the franchise had, and then it passed, and then they couldn't do anything with it. We weren't allowed to touch it. And then they said, come back in 5 years. And I was like, oh God, 5 years is such a long time. It actually wasn't. So I was like, oh wow, it's 5 years. I better give Universal a ring. So got back in touch with the licensing department, spoke to them and said, number one, can you release this fucking thing in DVD, please? Number two, could you tell me what's happening with this documentary? Yeah. So the plan is to get cast crew from all different versions of Munsters together. and actually talk about, you know, the Munsters and pop culture, what it means to people, the different generations that have grown up with different iterations of the Munsters, and for people to share their Munster memories, because for some people it's something they used to watch with their grandfather. For some people it's something they used to watch with their mum. With other people, with myself, I used to watch it with my best friend before he passed. So growing up, it's so important to so many people in so many different ways. It would be nice just to document that and, you know, see where the franchise could go and see people's predictions for what's to come next. I think there'll be an animated show potentially in the works sometime soon.
That would be cool.
I would totally buy into that. I would buy all the merch. Universal, just take my bank account right now. I'll give you the pin. Just give me the merch.
If they don't have some kind of nod to the Munsters at the Universal section that they're building in their theme park in Florida, the totally missed an opportunity. Some kind of nod, something.
I have some gossip. They're actually going to be putting some of the things from Munsters on display. They're going to be kind of building the Universal House of Horrors. So they're actually going to have the organ, the doors from the Munsters, some of the costumes that are around.
Oh, nice.
They're going to have, there was something particularly that someone said to me the other day. They said they'll have that. They'll have the miniature from Munsters Today as well there. Mm-hmm. They had that at the previous House of Horrors where you could go and see it. But obviously it was taped off and in a glass cube, so people like us don't steal it. I would literally take it apart and just number all the pieces so I could bring it back in the plane and just rebuild it. It's such an impressive model. But yeah, so that's something to look forward to. And I think, you know, the more the fandom, you know, reaches out and says to Universal, hey, we're still here, we're evolving, there's new fans to the movie now, to the franchise because of the movie. You know, there's so much life in the Munsters. I'm probably not allowed to say this, but I will say this anyway. If they get me into trouble, they get me into trouble. But I actually wrote a Broadway production of Munsters that brings together Munsters and Munsters Today with modern music, and it actually got the blessing of Universal to go ahead. This was before COVID, and Lloyd Schwartz said he would help on the production as well. Lee Merriweather and her daughter were interested in working on it. Pat Priest had said she would love to do a part, maybe as grandma, something like that. So that's been shopped around at the moment. We've got some interest. I'm not sure how far it might go, but, you know, we're hoping we can get it together, because Addams Family on Broadway was a big show. That was phenomenal. It was great. And with the Addams Family being rebooted in so many different ways, you know, it's doing the monster franchise and the horror franchise within comedy, you know, a great service to let new fans see it. Not everyone likes every iteration of every franchise, but, you know, it's out there.
They need to do a crossover with the Wednesday show and have frickin' Eddie show up.
That would be cool.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. No,
it will
never happen.
Do you guys know about the kind of subgenre of Munsters fans that have the Addams Family wife swapping with the Munsters? Jesus Christ, this is bad.
No.
There are so many subgenres that we have found ourselves in within the Munsters community that there are things that I am just like, why? Like, I may have potentially started the rumor that Maryland's a succubus, but that's the farthest I went with it, you know.
So you guys have to do a t-shirt that says Marilyn is a succubus and just have her with.
After I said it on several 30 episodes probably, that's when we started seeing it popping up more in groups, and people are like, have you heard this rumor that Marilyn was potentially a succubus? And I'm just like, did I do that? Like, all
Did you hear what happened to poor Pat Priest though? Like, someone threw an egg at her head and said, you're a succubus, and hit her with it. That's your fault, Mike.
I know. It's
I'm
totally
joking.
I would own that.
Are you too familiar with the reality show Wife Swap at all?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so yeah, you don't know shit.
Watching stupid.
You brought that up, and I would actually watch an episode where if they did that show where Lily and Morticia swap,
Is that
That
the
would be
show?
fun.
Is that the
Is that
show where
again-
the wives swap and basically like put the men in their place? But
kind of they
Yeah.
live the life of the other person, and then they kind of bring
Right.
new ideas to the
I
family after a
guarantee
certain
you,
amount
it's
of
not
days.
the same wife swapping that the
I
group
know,
are
that's
talking
why
about. They're
Tivis is steering
I'm
it the right
aware.
direction.
right. Tivis is like, I want to go this way, not the keys in the bowl by the doorway. Like,
Like the Grinch with Jim Carrey.
oh, jeez. All right. All right. So I wanted
So
to
you
post,
had images?
yes, we got this image of you here, Frank. I don't think we showed this one yet. Right here.
No.
Oh God, yeah, my God, I used to be so thin.
Is this like your Lance Bass impression right here?
Do you know, I do play in a band, and at that time there, I was in a boy band,
Yeah.
but I can't fucking sing. That's the thing about it, why was I in a boy band? I ask myself that every day. But I'm a drummer as well. I play in a rock band, so
Yeah.
But the CD I'm holding, 2004, I think it was. No, 2005. Just for a laugh, I released a Halloween compilation CD that included the Munsters Today theme mashed up, and also a track called the Munster Beat, which is quite hard to get now. I've not been able to find it on any streaming platforms, but it's basically an album of Halloween horror songs, and it was amazing. The CD sold out really quickly. Made a buttload of money from it, and I was not expecting it because I didn't do it as a project. I just done it as a little thing for other fans, because with the record company, and people loved it. And then we released a Munsters Today board game as well, unlicensed at the time, so it was free. And again, people were like, "This is amazing," and I was like, "There's so many Munsters fans out there that are they want content, they want things to do, things to buy. Universal, are you listening? Are you watching?" And that's my first touch with them, and said, we need to do something.
You should have reached out to these guys when they did this CD and got your stuff on there, man.
Oh yeah, that is such a good CD,
isn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
now I read that the Munsters theme actually has lyrics when it was originally created. There is no possible way for that you have gotten your hands on what these lyrics are. Have you, with all your?
I do. I have
connections.
I have it.
Yeah, there's actually two versions of it. One was released and one wasn't. So there's a kind of PG-13 one about like ripping children to pieces. That they kind of got a marker and said, "Yeah, we can't do that. Yeah, no, that won't work. No, that'll terrify children. That'll get sued." The one they released is actually toned down, and it starts, "If you're walking the street at night, then the monsters are going to get you." That's the lyrics of it. Which
is that from that audio that you put on YouTube, Myke?
No, that
I swear I've heard that one.
That was their LP. That was the their tour basically through their house. That's what that was.
God, that sounds so familiar.
There's a couple versions of it, and then what they'd done was they'd done another version of that for Munsters Today. There's actually a version of Munsters Today where in the opening where they're singing the whole song, the whole way through it from beginning to end is just a song.
It's just not that voiceover where it's the Munsters.
Yeah, it's even worse.
That's awesome.
I can't remember the lyrics for the life of me, but I've got the Unaired Pilot script, and within that is the lyrics.
I hope when people watch the Munsters Today for the first time, they don't just watch the intro and be like, "Yeah, I'm done," because it could turn you off very fast.
Do you know the thing I've noticed though, Myke? On every version that's online, including archive.org, it's only the left channel that's playing. Yeah? So you're not getting all the instruments. So it's not the complete sound. The only version that exists, I believe, on the internet of the Munsters Today theme as it was produced, properly produced, is on the Munsters Today YouTube channel. I don't think it's my one. I think it's one that someone else set up and they took the video and repurposed it. But that video, oh my God, I'm trying to think what it would... The episode's Vampire Pie, and it's split into 3 sections.
Okay.
So it's like part
Yeah.
1, part 2, part 3, that video, and it's got Munsters Today Information Archives, which was my website at the time where the video was hosted.
Yeah.
That is the only complete version of the song where you can hear all the instruments, and it's a totally different song. It's not as synthy. It's a bit more bassy. You can actually hear the bass notes being played.
Mhm.
The drums are different. That's the one that when they announced the cast on stage for every episode, they played and the crowd just went nuts because it was the Munsters. And they
Yeah.
actually they live sang it every episode. The cast actually had microphones and live sang it. We went to sleep many years ago. We woke up with a brand new show for every episode, which to me is just crazy. I'm like, why put yourself through that torture of having to do that every time? Poor John Shock having to do like this. Because he's got quite a high voice and having to go that deep and that low. It's
Yeah.
just torture. But I'll share these files with you guys. And the
Awesome.
version of the pilot, the unaired pilot that's on archive.org, that's
Mhm.
not the full pilot either. I think I have
Okay.
the only surviving copy on VHS. Lloyd Schwartz actually sent a copy to me, and he sent me all the behind the scenes promos and things like that they
Right.
produced. I'll try and get them uploaded from VHS along with the Al Lewis conversation, and you guys can put it on the website because I've got so much here. I just need to do
Yeah.
something with it.
Okay. Sounds
Appreciate
good.
it.
Gives us stuff to put on the website because I've been lacking.
You guys have done an amazing job, though. You're keeping the franchise alive.
Yeah. There is one thing I have been always looking for, and that is Munsters fan films, and I cannot find many anywhere. Like I found a couple here and there, but they were like 2 minutes maybe tops each, and I just can't. I'm like, how is it such a franchise that I know has a following just doesn't have a lot of films? And especially as you said at the beginning of this, you know, a lot of people that are Munster fans are also work in the industry, and myself at the same, but I'm just like, I need to go out and produce a Munster show, like a short or something, anything. And I'm just like, oh, but I don't have any friends in town, so I'm lame.
You've actually just unlocked a memory in my mind. I remember, do you guys have a brand over in the States called OXO? OXO. And it's
OXO.
like a stock cube thing that you just grind into to make gravy or stock for soup, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Like beef stuff for stew and
Yeah. So way back in 2009, OXO commissioned my company to do an advert for it for UK television. The advert, I don't know if it's online, but I can try and look at a copy. But what we done was we used unlicensed versions of the Munsters, mixed them with a little bit of the Addams Family, stirred in a little bit of Bewitched, and cooked a broth of some of the best sitcoms from the 60s, and had that family sitting down together to make a meal and come together as a family. So we had the grandpa, we had Morticia, we had a Herman character. I actually made the headpiece for that. I still have it somewhere.
I think I've seen something like this, similar.
It might be on the web. It might be on the web. Only like 60 seconds, I think, 45 seconds.
Yeah, I've seen
with
something
all singing and
was,
dancing and eating their spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, it was like a combination of random sitcom characters from back in the day, and like I was watching because I'm searching the web all the time for Munster stuff. All the you keyword Munster, and you'll find random like the George Lopez skit or something,
Yeah,
or all Patrick doing Little Caesars.
Yeah, oh yeah, the Little Caesars ones, and the Cheerios commercials and all that fun stuff, or you start to pull up Al Lewis's like was it Crazy Saturdays and stuff like that, all that fun stuff. So yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff, and that sounds familiar right there, what you were just explaining. That's awesome. You produced that? Or
yeah. Also starred in it as well. I played one of the bodies hanging off the wall in the background, so
nice.
That's me.
Nice.
But it was so much fun. The actors had a great time. And the kids that were there as well are actually now Munsters fans because of being in the advert. All these years later, the kids are like 65 now. And they're all like, yeah, I still watch the Munsters and the Munsters today because of you guys. And I'm like,
yeah,
we influenced you a little bit in a good way. A lot of the Munster stuff you were talking about there, Myke, as well, and a lot of the movies, a lot of them aren't online. There was a purge in 2010 where anything that was Munsters related just got ripped off the web. I have a DVD, though, of a lot of it because they actually done a TV special of Desperate Housewives where the cast of Desperate Housewives got sucked into an episode of the Munsters, and it was a promotion for Dove soap, I think it was, or something Dove hand gel, and it's Lynette, I think, was the character from Desperate Housewives that actually is going through. She's talking to Willie, and they actually retrofit her through CGI in episodes of the Munsters.
Right.
And it was like 6 episodes they made of it. I've got copies of that.
Yeah.
I've also got some of the TV specials where they actually aired Munsters.
That stuff wasn't aired, was it?
Yeah, but it's just so hard to find.
I watched Desperate Housewives. I don't remember any of that.
Oh, it was bumpers, so it was during the ad break. It was coming up as Desperate Housewives, and then you'd see Lynette. She was talking about the skincare brand thing, and then she'd fall asleep in front of the TV, and then she was in the Munsters.
Why are you looking so surprised over there, Tivis?
You watched a relevant TV show that's semi-modern?
Desperate Housewives isn't modern. That's like 10 years old.
That's what I consider modern, I've got to say.
Shut up. I'm trying to be hip for the young people who don't listen to us.
Do you know, the other day I mentioned Desperate Housewives to someone, and they said, yeah, I think my mum used to watch that when I was a kid. And I'm like, what age are you? Like, that's new to me. That's a new TV show.
I guess there's just so many TV shows that come out constantly that you watch it and then it's old. It's old. I mean, like, we were watching Desperate Housewives, I guess, when my first kid was born. So that was probably, because my wife watched it. That and Grey's Anatomy, but we stopped that because it's still going and it's just so much.
Oh, is that still
Grey
going?
isn't even on there.
Yeah, she's not even on there anymore. Like, I'm like, how can you do the show about her without her? That was her fucking show.
So
we've got a show like that in Scotland as well called Taggart that is being rebooted, and the main character died in like 1989.
Yeah,
and I'm like, how is this even possible?
Yeah, that's
this one.
Gotta love TV. Ooh.
Yes,
this
that's the game.
Yeah.
Now I will get you guys some of that only shows you the board, but there's all sorts of cards and things like that go with
now
the game.
Was this on the screen for the audio guys? Because Tivis always forgets we have audio people too. There's a Munsters Today board game on there. Was this something that you made, or is this something that was manufactured?
This is something we prototyped to show Universal that there was an audience. So they said, "Look, can you give us some sort of proof of your fandom that you have?" Because I think at the time we had 600,000 members. We had a Yahoo group chain thing back in the days of Yahoo groups. So we had 600,000 members who were all Munsters fans. So at midnight on Halloween 2005, I done a drop of this to show how many people would download it, and all 600,000 people downloaded it before 6 a.m. the next day. So it was fantastic. And then I took that back to Universal and said, there you go. And they still didn't fucking release the box set. So, but, at least we showed them that there's a fandom there. So all these years later, we're still pushing for it. But the board game...
Just send them to our show. Hopefully they're okay with the things that we say sometimes.
Well, I know 2 executives from Universal that watch the show. There's 2 executives that watch the show, and they're actually keeping an eye on you guys. I don't mean in a bad way. I mean as in a good way, because they see the potential of the fandom coming together with things like podcasts and, fan events and, Q&As online. They just see the dollar signs in their head when it comes to merchandise and DVDs. And if they can make money, they will make money. So, hopefully that will be a step in the right direction to get Today released on DVD.
Just everybody remember, the Munster Cast was the first ever Munsters only podcast. Just so we're
absolutely.
There have been other ones. I did find some other, because before we started this, we searched and scoured. Well, I searched and scoured the webs to try and figure out if there was another Munsters podcast before we started, to see like what the competition was. And there was like TV podcasts that did like an episode on the Munsters here and there, but nothing that was like full on. And we did it. Me and Tivis, we were doing our other show that we have, and we talked about it. Munsters like popped up one day, and then next thing you know, we're ordering the Munsters things. And I'm like, dude, you want to do this? And it took about a year before we finally started it.
Yeah.
So, and now we're here, 2 years later? So it's freaking awesome. And it's great to have you as a guest on the 2-year episode too, especially. because I love this stuff. Like I said, when we first started, my grandma got me hooked onto the Munsters, the original show, and that's what I knew of. And doing this show, I found so much more Munsters content. Like, I didn't know there was that many Munster movies before, or the Munsters Today even existed until I was like Googling images for the first show and was like, oh, what's this? And I gotta find this, because we're gonna be the only motherfuckers that talk about this. Because I was seeing the imagery, I'm like, no one else is gonna watch this and just talk about it for like 3 years. So let's do it.
Do you know, it's so funny because I've been talking about it since I was 8 years old. All of my first home movies were all about the Munsters. All of my first documentaries were about the Munsters, or Ghostbusters, or Power Rangers, or various things. And just over the years, because of working in the TV industry, it's been such a privilege to get to know and work with, like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers cast, or like the people I've met that have worked behind the scenes on Munsters and Munsters Today, Doctor Who, various franchises people have worked with. It shows you that even behind the scenes, because you hear horror stories of some people who just do not love the job or didn't love the gig at the time, and it's so nice to hear people that actually genuinely appreciated the opportunity, they genuinely appreciated the show and the scripts and the characters. There's nothing nicer than that. And despite there's a lot of toxic fandoms, and the Munsters can be quite toxic. A lot of people can be quite, well, I like this version, and I like this episode, and this isn't canon, that isn't legitimate, that's just sacrilege. And I'm like, oh, fuck off.
It's interesting to see too, because you'll get the people in the fandoms, including the Munsters fandom, as we've seen, that are trying to combat toxic fandoms by being toxic themselves with their ideals. And I'm just like, okay, all right, I guess we're gonna be like hypocritical. Whatever. Clearly none of you guys paid attention to the storylines in the Munsters, because you wouldn't act like this.
Exactly. And it's something that even to this day, I still kind of, and I know this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but sometimes it goes through my head. I'm like, what would Grandpa do? And I'm thinking of something really evil I can do to the person.
He would probably create a pill or something.
Here it is, an asshole pill. Would you like one?
Well, in the States, election year is coming up next year, so Grandpa would try to make another election rigging machine. So,
in a way, like the Munsters, it gets quite dark sometimes, especially with Grandpa, especially Howard Morton's Grandpa gets quite dark. Oh my goodness, you guys have a lot to look forward to. But there's a lot of heart. There's some episodes in particular that go into why Grandpa is the way he is, which are nice. Why Grandpa is so cantankerous and angry sometimes, and it goes into his backstory. You actually see him as a youngster, which is great to see. It's so much fun. And without giving any spoilers, it just shows you that these characters are relatable in so many ways. They might have monstrous looks, they might look crazy and strange, but they're just like us. And you need to kind of try and think in a way about the family dynamic, making the world a better place, being a better person. That's the kind of things that people share the meme of Herman giving that speech to Eddie. That is very much what Munsters Today and a lot of the movies have at their heart, is these really good people doing really good things, not sometimes turning out the way they like it, but that's at the heart of the story, is family and good people. And I think you guys know what you do. You're good people, you're doing a good show, you've got a good product, it's bringing the fandom together. That's exactly the way it should be, and it's nice. Keep doing it.
Man, I appreciate that. We appreciate that so much. But unfortunately it has been about 2 hours and we gotta go. I apologize so much, Frank. It has been great having you on, man. If we would keep going. I don't know if you watched the Daniel Roebuck episode, but we kept him as long as we could just because
you've done so well.
We're like, hey, keep talking. So I will ask you one last thing before we head out of here, because you're big Munsters fan, but you also work within the industry and everything. So is there anything that's going on right now for you in your professional career and stuff that you want to let people know about, that they can try and check out, whether in the States, in the UK area, all that fun stuff? So I'm not sure, because I know you do TV production as well. So
Yeah.
And you have a company that does a TV channel, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we done the sort of pilot of the TV channel earlier in the year. And it was a massive success. So we're going to be going international with it. So it'll be available in 52 countries around the world. Okay. It'll be available 24/7. It will have Munsters Today on it, which is great. So you'll be able to tune in. The channel is interactive as well. So you'll actually be able to, the way that you guys, people can leave you notes and interact with the show. You can do that with our channel as well. You can also get involved in the live road shows. We're actually going to have the Munsters living room set touring around the UK, potentially the US as well. So you can find out more about that if you just go to, I can't remember the website. That's awful. If you just type in Braw TV, so it's just BRAW TV, Braw TV. Braw is the Scottish word for brilliant, so it just means brilliant TV. And you can actually raise a ticket with us to bring back your favourite classic TV shows. So if there's shows out there that you would love to see on TV that you haven't seen so far on commercial television or cable or Netflix, you can raise a ticket with us and we will help you get the show back on the air. A couple of shows we may actually be rebooting as well if we get the support behind us that we hope to. So the channel's going to start rolling out between now and March. So if you just look up Braw TV, you can find us. And if you want to find out more about the company, you just look up Bad Pony Media. That's the company. So it's Bad, BAD, PONY, Pony Media. Bad Pony Media. We do film, TV. We do series drama, factual entertainment, documentary. We're doing a horror feature film called Evening of the Dead, which is a zombie horror feature film. It's going to be the world's first fully interactive feature film. Interactive, real world, and via the screen. So yeah, if you're a fan of zombies and horror, give us a shout.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. And again, we appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna have to get a hold of you. We're friends on our personal Facebook pages, so we'll have to communicate and stuff. Maybe we can do some work together too.
Absolutely.
I'll fly out that way. Give me a little vacation.
Absolutely. You guys need to come to Scotland. Like I said, anyone that appreciates monsters or horror, there's some places in Scotland you really should visit. There's the original castle where Bram Stoker done some of these greatest writing. So we have that in the UK. We've also got Slains Castle in Aberdeen, which is now a venue. It'd be great to have you guys over. There's a lot of horror stuff here. You guys would love it.
Definitely would love it. I would probably love it a lot more than Tivis. I think the Munsters is the most horror I'm going to get Tivis to do. Well, I appreciate it again. Thank you, Frank, for coming on. And I'll try and get the links from you too, and we'll put them in the description of the video and the audio for everybody out there that has been listening. And we hope everyone else out there is listening has appreciated Frank's thing. If you want, I can put like a page for you as well if people want to follow you or something, either on Instagram or Facebook, one of the two. And just send me all those links after we're done with the show, and we'll take care of all that. And we thank you again, man. I appreciate you so much. And I guess, Tivis, do you have any final words?
Anyone listening to this, please go check out the YouTube. You got to see these images.
Yes, definitely go check out the YouTube. All right, Frank, you got any last words to say before we head out?
Listen to the Munster Cast because it's awesome. It's
Awesome,
on
man.
all podcatchers of choice. So yeah, go find it. Subscribe, like, comment, tell a friend, tell an enemy, as Tivis says.
Tell her your enemy so they have to deal with us. Take that off, Tivis. All right. Well, I guess with that said, guys, again, thank you, Frank. We appreciate you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
We will catch you all next time as we take another stroll down 1313 Mockingbird Lane.
I want you to learn is it doesn't matter what you look like. You can be tall or short, or fat or thin, or ugly, or handsome, like your father. Or you can be black or yellow or white. It doesn't matter. What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character.
Munster.